All right, so go ahead and shift over here. All right, so flowing yoga 1. So we're down to how many more weeks? I don't know. Today, I think we have at least 2, if not 3 more weeks, more Mondays till May 2nd. So 2 weeks from today. Oh, okay, so less than 2. So we have today and next week, and then it's May 2nd. Okay, yeah, I didn't check that out. So 3 more classes for this semester anyway. And so registration is going on if you want to sign up again. And yeah, so lots of opportunities to do that in the next 2 weeks. So we're going to drop in tonight and a little more subtle focus. So yoga is to kind of unite body, mind, and breath together. So we feel more of a state of integration and wholeness, because we've kind of fractured ourselves between our mind and our body. We're all focused on our thoughts and the cycle of the mind so much. And then other times we can be really drawn into the body. And then, when we link with the breath, we start to feel a sense of integrating ourselves into a whole. So I really like to focus on that, but also, focusing on just our ways of supporting our spine. So tonight, a little more focus on our posture and our spine, because so many of us sit a lot and we can have back pain and strain, and so and then we get kind of stuck in our lower back or stuck in our lower spine, and that keeps us from moving and even moving forward in our lives and doing new things. So yeah, so we'll just get started with that. And I actually wanted to start standing. So you might, just for our body awareness check and our breath awareness, kind of a check-in, just coming to standing in Tadasana or mountain pose. And you might, for a moment, you could close your eyes if you want to, or kind of take your gaze downward, but just sense your body here. Right, we could start with the feet and just notice everybody kind of go like this, like, yeah, my feet are attached. They're here. It was funny. So just, welcome in your toes, your feet. And as you stand about hip width apart, just kind of see where your natural placement of your feet is. Are the toes turned out or neutral alignment? If you find your toes want to go outwards and when you're standing, so you're kind of, like this, you can it could be an indicator that you are exceptionally tight in these glute medius, these external rotators. So the outer hips can be really tight, and that just kind of makes, draws our legs outwards like this. So let's see if we can bring the toes in and just find that neutral alignment. And that might be a little harder to hold because if you're tighter here. And maybe just close the eyes or gaze downward and just kind of sense where the weight in your feet lies. So if it's in the front or the back. Is it on one edge of the foot or the inner edge and the outer edge? Do all 10 toes touch the floor, or is one or two lifted? Let's take a breath. And just notice as the weight in the centers of the heels or the outer edges of the heels. And let's kind of see, can we press into the triangles of our feet to kind of fully feel the bottoms? And when you do that, a little sense that our calf muscles are engaged. Little connection to the calves, and then rising up through the, a little lift through the quadriceps. So you'll feel those kind of activate. So like the kneecaps kind of lift up when we activate those quads. And then release a little bit. This one's a little different. So release a little bit through the sacrum. So a lot of times we tend to squeeze around the sacrum. We tighten the upper part of our gluteus or our buttocks here. And then we squeeze in our lower back. So see if we can kind of release around the sacrum and the inner edges of your feet press down a little more. So we're a little softer in our sacrum. And then drawing up through the spine. I know a lot going on here. And just kind of sensing the midsection of your body if you like. And if you're like, wow, I'm way off on all this stuff, or my body feels like I can't fit into what she's saying, that's okay. Don't try to make it happen. Just a little bit. So so you're not, a lot of times we want to supinate, which means roll to the outer edges and not realize it. So just not, you don't want to roll the ankles in. No, you just want to make sure that the inner edges of your feet are touching the floor too. Yeah, and that way you can kind of release around the sacrum a little bit. And then we'll just kind of lift up, continue up the spine. So from the lumbar, just kind of coming up the lower back, kind of trace up to around the lower ribs. Just kind of find the space between your hip bones and your lower ribs. Let's take a breath. So if you're holding your breath, take a breath. So drawing up a little further, little lift through the collarbones. It's almost like, you're gonna lift the rib cage up off the hips. And then just spinning our palms forward, rotating the upper arm bones outward. So you'll feel a little connection to the lats, like right under the armpits. You'll feel like a little activity here. And then rising through the spine, or through the cervical spine, we'll just gently draw the head back. Let's take a few breaths in this shape. Right, just starting to just relax the breath, but be aware of it. Just be aware of breathing. as you sense the whole body. You might notice a pull to one side or the other, or maybe one side of your body draws your attention more than the other. If you can breathe into the whole space of your body, maybe just inhaling and creating a little more space. And exhaling and just relaxing your shoulders, your face, your jaw. And just notice your breathing here. And then slowly just tuck the chin and start to roll down. And we're not going to roll all the way, but just roll far enough just to let the arms hang, the shoulders hang, and the head hang. So just a quarter of the way down and pause. And now try to breathe here. See how the breath feels here. So just maybe 3 breaths. Is it harder? Is it easier? This actually puts more weight bearing load on our spine as when we forward bend. And then we'll fully bend the knees and come into forward bend if you're comfortable. If you need to support the back, put your hands on your thighs, but otherwise just hanging and bending the knees and coming full forward bend. And then 3 to 5 breaths here, and just see how is the breath different. Can you breathe easier or not as easy? Does it feel compressed in some space, more open in others? And then walk your hands to your knees, and we'll slowly just start to roll up again. So finding each vertebrae, just sensing the sacrum, the lumbar, the thoracic, the cervical spine. Take a breath and reach all the way up, inhaling, stretching up tall. And as you exhale, we'll just start that descent again, this time 3 or 4 breaths, just to roll down through the spine. And let the arms hang. Bend your knees a lot, especially at the beginning here, just to take some of the load off the spine. So when we forward bend, we add a lot of load on our spine. And take a breath, kind of letting go of the day. And then slowly start your way back up. If you want to support the back, please do. Slowly rolling up and staying grounded in our feet, all parts of our feet. Slowly coming up and reaching up on your breath in. And one last time, 3 or 4 breaths. Exhale, tucking chin, rolling down, bending knees, 1 vertebrae at a time. Seeing what is here today. A lot of times we're over active in our spinal muscles. They take a lot of load, and we're less strong in our core. So let's see if we, as we roll back up, just kind of letting our spinal muscles relax. So the muscles on either side of our spine, see if we can just let them be soft. Okay, we're going to take some of the load off our back today. On the in-breath, reaching all the way up. And exhaling your hands to your heart. And let's come all the way back down and come onto your back. And just take a full body stretch. So lengthening out the spine. have a block nearby and a strap nearby. So just stretching out. And let's take a nice stretch, inhaling, reaching through the fingertips and pressing through the heels. So lots of space between the discs of our back and our spine. Right, on the in-breath, just stretching through the right arm and the right heel, so right side body gets some length. And as you exhale, shift to the other side. So left side body, we're kind of creating a lot of space between that lower rib and hip bone by lengthening out left side body. And then just go back and forth a few times. So you'll notice just, that awareness down to where the sacrum or the base of our spine inserts into the pelvis. It's a movable joint. So this can kind of give a little freedom around the lumbar sacrum area, that lower back and into the pelvis, where we get really stuck sometimes in that lower part. And then a nice deep breath and reaching up, pressing through both heels. And then exhale, the arms float down and let's bend the knees and just bring the feet flat. So about hip width apart. And just start to listen to our breath a little closer. So following the natural breath, so the inhale, coming into the body, subtle sensations. And the exhale, so just following that exhale out. And you might just, as you notice the natural breath for a little bit, just notice if maybe you were shallow breathing today, or you were, maybe you haven't taken a full breath all day. Maybe you notice some congestion or any sort of restriction in your breathing, or let's take a couple more breaths. And then just starting to deepen and lengthen and creating some space. So we're just going to bring the hands right to the abdomen if you like. Just kind of place them right on between the lower ribs and hip bones, and maybe onto the solar plexus area and navel area. Let's start to deepen that breath. So let's just kind of take a moment on the in-breath, following that breath down into the belly, creating some space. And as you exhale, see if you can gently hug the belly in towards the spine and contracting the navel. You might even use the hands to kind of smooth the abdomen in towards the navel like it's contracting. And then on the in-breath, just rising or finding that expansion or voluminous space in the belly. And see, does the back breathe? Do you feel that breath moving into the lower back, sacrum, and hip joints as well as you expand on the in-breath? And then as you exhale, you notice the hugging in of the belly, the contraction. It can be gentle. You feel a contraction where it goes almost wraps around your waist. This is the transverse abdominis. And maybe take another breath like that. And then we're going to just on the next breath, just lower, just feel the inside edge of the pelvic girdle. So you're going to find your hip bones, your hip points, and just you can place your index finger and your middle fingers just right on the inside edge of that pelvic girdle of the hip points. And then as you're taking that breath again, that deep breath, breathing in, expanding. As you exhale, let's see, as you're contracting the belly in, do you feel just a little tension here? And that's just that transverse activating. So you know you're activating that transverse abdominis when you feel that tightening up right inside the hip points. So I was trying that deep belly breathing a few times and noticing, am I activating this core wrapping or corset muscle of the TA, the transverse? And it's subtle, it's light, it's nothing really intense. You'll just feel that contraction right there where it attaches in. And then you could just release it and just return to your natural breath. And we're going to lift the legs and just crossing the right ankle behind the left one and just circle around the sacrum. So we're just going to let the knees draw a circle in space. So on the in breath, circling around, finding, rolling over the glute muscles. And then exhale back around. So just using the breath, we move over one glute muscle to the middle back, to the other side, and then down to the base of the spine or the tailbone there. And so as you do this, you might find the sacrum kind of shifts around a little bit, just, and maybe you're rolling over some tightness in that lower back. And so do this in a way that, you don't cause yourself pain or any discomfort, but just explore. And you might try the other direction. So just take those circles the other way, breathing in. Breathing out, you could close your eyes and kind of imagine the edges of that pelvic bowl as you circle around. Good. We'll come back to neutral and pause. You might bring your knees into table for a moment. Now, on the exhalation, I'm just going to hug the belly and just tap the right toe down without tilting the pelvis. So you want to keep the pelvis upright. Inhale and just feel that transverse abdominis activate. As you exhale, drop the left toe, touch the floor. You'll feel you have to engage that corset. And let's repeat that a few times. So as you exhale, you're hugging the belly in, touching the toe, breathing in to lift it, and breathing out to touch down, and just keep that stable pelvis. Good, without tightening up anywhere else. So if the facial muscles started contracting or the jaw, just see if we can soften there and maybe try one or two more. Just activating that core. Good, we'll just touch the feet down, just let the knees rock in towards each other, pause. Just take a breath and soften into the purposeful pause here. Just relax. Take a breath, softening through the abdominal wall. Good. And we'll just take a little cycling of that right leg. So drawing the leg in and stretching it up on the in-breath. As you exhale, lower down and start to, again, connect with that core support, right? Breathing in, cycling right leg in and up, lowering as you exhale. And see if you can maintain that natural lumbar curve behind your back. Right, so there's a maintenance of that lumbar curve so the pelvis stays still. Your arms could be out to the sides to a T to support you if you want. And the next time you bring the leg in and stretch it up, reaching behind and draw it in towards the belly. So, but keep that lumbar curve, a little space behind your low back, and that exhale to hug the abdominal wall in. And you could bend this knee a little bit. So almost like you're bringing the thigh bone towards the belly, towards the lower ribs. Taking a breath or two here. Some of you might stretch that left leg out if that, if you're a little more flexible in the hips. And just take several breaths here, right? Close the eyes. Think about the shape of the lumbar and the hug of the belly in. One more breath. And we'll release that leg down. Pause for a moment. Stretching that leg out and taking a breath. Good. Let's try the other side. So if you want to bend that right knee, you can. We'll start to cycle the left leg in and up, maintaining the lumbar curve as you lower down. Exhale. Inhale, draw the knee in and stretch it up. Lower as you're exhaling. So breath, linking mind with body. So we're in the moment, just as it is. Good. We're bringing that knee in towards the belly, stretching that left leg up, reach behind it. Gently draw the thigh bone, upper thigh bone towards the belly, towards the lower ribs, lengthening the leg, but you could have a slight bend. It's more kind of bringing the upper leg towards the abdomen. And then if you want to straighten the right leg, that's optional. It's a little more intense. And 3 breaths as we hold here. Right, so tight hamstrings really can be, keep us stuck in our lower spine. So let's take one more nice deep breath here. Good, if your leg's extended, you're pressing that left thigh bone down. And then lower that leg and stretch it out. You can take a couple breaths, just feeling both sides relax. Softening through the lower spine and glutes. So those purposeful pauses just to integrate, right? Feel the after effects. And then we'll take the block and just place the block under the spine or under the lower spine, so the sacrum. So you want the sacrum really rested and the pelvis on the block. So not on the lumbar spine but on the sacrum. So we're in the supported hip bridge and just turning your palms up towards the ceiling. So rolling the upper arm bones outwards. So here, maybe take that right leg and extend it out without arching the back. So you want to keep your natural shape of your spine and extend the right leg out straight. So keep some tone in the low belly to keep the pelvis from tilting. And then just little lifts and lowers. So we're just going to take a inhale, lift that leg slightly. And exhale, slightly lower. So deep into that lower back, we're activating these subtle core muscles. So just within the range of maybe a foot or two, right? Lifting and lowering. Inhaling to lift. And you'll start to feel that kind of deep in the back. So you want to keep an awareness on that without straining it, right? And then lower that leg all the way down for a moment if that feels right. Breathing in. Now we're just going to feel that stretch. So we'll bring the left knee into the chest. And 3 breaths, right, to feel that deep psoas stretch or that lumbar area. Just notice what you notice. Right, softening through the jaw, the teeth, the tongue, the throat. And then releasing that leg down, we'll bend the right leg and place it flat again. And pause. Take a breath. Good, and extend the left leg out straight. So again, a little tone to the belly. It's going to support the pelvis. We don't want to we don't want our lumbar curve to really arch. We want to keep it in its neutral place. And then just little lifts and lower. Right? So really connecting into the deep core that becomes shortened and weaker when we sit a lot. And just a few more small movements. Breathing in, breathing out. Good, and then lowering that leg down if it feels okay, and we'll bring the right knee in and give it a stretch. So 3 breaths here as you draw the outer shoulders back and down. Shoulder blades down your back. Nice quiet breath. Good, and just placing that foot back to the floor, and you could remove the block and just let the pelvis come back down to the floor. Pause for a moment. You can have your feet bent, maybe your knees rock in towards each other. And see if the softening can happen there. 3 breaths. And the earth kind of rise up to support your back, your body, so the muscles can kind of roll away from the bones. Good, and then slowly we're just going to start little tuck of the tailbone slightly, not too much. Press into your feet, lift your hips, but don't go all the way up. We want to go about halfway up. We're going to take this mini bridge and as you do, when you keeping the tone as you press into your heels, you want to feel the lower glute and upper hamstring area. So yeah, so instead of really using the upper glute area, use the lower glute. So we're not going to go up as high. So maybe this area is a little less in touch, right? So pressing into your heels, you might feel a little bit more, maybe even lifting your toes. You'll feel that lower glute, upper hamstring area. Let's take several breaths so you don't have to go too high. And then slowly press into your feet, releasing back down. Pause, right? Relax for a moment. Take a breath. Integrating mind and body. Good rest. We'll do that one more time. So pressing into the feet, lifting halfway. So find that halfway spot where we just maybe lift the toes and just feel the lower glute hamstring area. See if this is a little less, it feels, if you feel the connection there, or if it's a little out of touch. Good, important areas to protect our spine. So we have that full conduction of energy up our spine. We want to really protect our spine. And then lower it back down again and relax and pause. Take a breath. And let's separate our feet to the edges of the mat and just letting your knees drop over to the right. So this wide-legged, I call it windshield wipers. So we let our knees drop to the right and arms out to a T, right? Internal rotation on that left hip. And then breathing in, just rolling back over the sacrum to the other side, knees drop to the left. And so you could go back and forth a few times, right? Inhale to center, and exhale to the right. Exploring as you kind of float with the movement. I kind of like to, sense that the earth is supporting me, but that my cells are going along for the ride here. So just kind of see, where is there restriction? Where is there ease? And the next time you come back to neutral, just bring your feet in a little bit, knees rock in towards each other, pause, and just rest through the base of the spine. 3 breaths. Rest through the pelvis. Let the exhale come completely out. So long, slow exhale. Mind, body, and breath together. And we'll rock over to one side. Come on up and over. And into our tabletop. So table position here, right? Stacking the shoulders over the wrists. So yeah, let's find that nice shape. And find the spine. So as you press the shin bones and the tops of the feet down, flexing the hands, right? So let's take a few cat and cows. So as your belly drops, a little more movement, a little more lumbar curve, and lift the chest and chin. And And then exhale nice and slow and round the spine. Hug the legs in towards each other. And breathing in, looking forward, expanding the breath. Breathing out, exhaling, rounding the spine nice and slow. As you take about 3 more breaths, right? Really, let's slow down on the exhale. Let's make it subtle. So exhaling long and slow and contracting the belly. So feeling that hug of the transverse abdominis in. And the last one. So listening to that soft snoring sound of your breath. Coming back to a neutral spine. And maybe sitting back into child's pose. So stretching the arms out, resting the forehead down. So this new shape in our body. And let's kind of roll the head side to side. Maybe just relaxing through that fascia of our facial muscles, across the forehead. Good. Finding a place of steadiness and ease. And pulling back up onto hands and knees. So let's find a little rotation here. So we'll bring the left hand to the center of the mat and the right arm just reaching out and up and slowly spiraling that right side of the chest, shoulder, and maybe looking up as well. Good. So a little spinal rotation here. So releasing across the pectorals and then sliding it underneath. So you might bring the head a little lower, but we'll move in and out a couple times. So just taking that dynamic movement in, breath, stretching out, reaching up. And exhale, breath, sliding under, reaching through. So just exploring here, and everything is always optional, right? It's an invitation to explore, but you don't have to do anything, right? It's all optional. So what's right for you? So maybe land this last one and bring the side of the head down. Maybe the hand moves back, left hand moves back. And you stay with that twist for a moment. Right, so a different shape for that thoracic spine. Good, and then the in-breath, see how you fill the shape with the breath. Good, we'll draw that arm back through, place it on the mat, tabletop, and other side, right hand a little towards center, and spin the left ribs up, so rotating like on a spit, reaching up. Sliding under on the exhale, breath reaching through. And practicing that rotation, exploring that movement, breathing in, breathing out. It's like there's nothing else to do, but just kind of be with sensation. And the last one, you might then just remain in your twist. Right, maybe slide that arm through, slide the right hand back. And take 3 breaths here. And I like to say bringing in the heart, which bringing in the heart is, kind of turning the breath into a breath of compassion, kindness, non-harming. So we should leave our yoga class feeling like, there's something that supports us in our lives, body, mind, or breath, whatever it is for you. So we'll go ahead and draw that arm back through and come forward onto the belly. Lower all the way down. Just bring your forehead to your hands and pause. Resting through the lower spine, through the lower back. Right, resting through the belly. Let's take several breaths. Feel the belly expand against the floor. And gently draw the belly in as you're exhaling. And on the next time you exhale, just press the tailbone towards the floor. So there's a little core activation, tops of the feet press down, and then come up into Sphinx. So we're going to bring the forearms to the mat, new shape. So there's some lower core activation as you press pubic bone towards the floor, or lengthen the tailbone towards the heels. Tops of the feet press down. So you want the lower core active when back bending here. It supports your lumbar spine. Good. So 3 breaths, right? So maybe the chin slightly lifts away from the collarbones. So we take the breath into this new shape. So. And it might seem simple, but change happens at the subtle level. So subtle changes in the tissues. And then go ahead and lower back down. Maybe bring your forehead to your hands and rest. Take a breath. So integrating mind and body. And let's flex the feet and bring the heels in towards the glutes. And you'll feel your tailbone wants to pop up. So press the tailbone down again towards the floor. And you want to keep that engagement as you bring the arms back, and we're kind of reaching back for the, like we're gonna grab on, but we're not gonna. And so holding here so we can maintain that pelvic stability, right? So a lot of times if we grab our feet, we start to like overarch our back. So let's just find that. Several breaths. Keep pressing the pubic bone down, lengthening. You'll feel that in the hamstrings and lower glutes. That's what you want to feel, right? I know these ones are hard. And one more breath. Good. And lower back down. Turn your head to one side and pause. Arms by your side. Take several breaths. Right into the lower back. And for a moment, just kind of bring your awareness to that lower glute, upper thigh area, because this is where we tend to be weaker, and it's out of touch. So we're going to do this one more time. Flex the feet, or flex the knees, bring the heels in towards the glutes, press the pubic bone down, lift the chest, the shoulders, the head, reaching for your calves, but stay with that tone in the belly. Right? Keep pressing the tailbone down, lengthening, breathing in, breathing out. It's harder to breathe, but want to continue to breathe. See if you can soften somewhere, soften the facial muscles, soften the jaw. Try not to use just your back. Use the lower glute hamstring area. Good. And then release and turn the head to the other side and relax for 3 breaths. Good, releasing through the lower spine. Purposeful pause, so it's time to integrate. So feeling those muscles, let's bring our hands back next to the chest. Little press up and back into child's pose. And so, yes, you might feel that transition, right? So we're just going to take our half series flow. So remember those engagements. So as you come forward to plank, and then lower on your exhale. Just a little lift of the spine, but remember the tops of the feet press down and lower. Pressing straight up and back. And hips back towards your heels. And exhale. And then if you want, try that 2 or 3 more times with your own breath, your own movement, that half series flow it's called. And exploring those engagements and supporting your deep inner body. And when you end your last one in child's pose, feel free to pause there for a moment and just check in with how you're feeling. If you feel, more of a calmness or just from the practice today, or just how you're feeling, your thoughts, sensations, whatever you care to observe. And if you like, slowly just walk your hands to the right. So coming out, you might even take them off the mat as you work your, or you kind of squeeze more into the right side waist and lengthen the left side waist. And just take a breath or two and just into that shape. Lots more space on the left side of your body. And then walking your hands back and to the other side. So not, not causing any pain or aggravation, but just finding a place that you can balance effort and ease, right? So that's your practice. Where do I find a little bit of effort, but also ease? Good. So if you find a space of tension, you're bringing the breath in and the breath out, just to give it a little bit of ease. And then you might walk your hands back to center and coming into downward facing dog or downward puppy. So if you want to stay on your knees, some of you might want to be here, right, with knees above or hips above knees. And otherwise, we're coming into our downward facing dog. And let's kind of pedal the feet a little bit. So let's just lift and lower the heels just a couple times, just to work with the fascia on the bottoms of the feet and the calf muscles. Good, lengthening the legs, maybe bending the knees a little bit, and then lengthening the spine towards the sky, hips towards the sky. Good, dropping the chin towards the chest, maybe one more breath. let's walk the feet forward and come all the way to standing. And come all the way up to Tadasana. Okay, let's find that pose we started with today, some mountain pose. And just do a little check-in. Reaching all the way up, breathing in. And let your right hand drop. Let's just take a side bend. We haven't side bended all today. Well, we did a little bit actually in that one, but let's stay there for a moment. So rooting down through our feet, rising through our spine, breathing in several breaths just into this left side body here as you spin the armpit towards the sky. Good, with the length, just reaching up, both arms, and exhale to the other side. Good, staying tall through the hips, right? Little core engagement to support that side bend. Good, reaching all the way up, breathing in. And slowly we're going to take this hinge forward from the hips, so swan dive. But as you do, we're going to take this slow because I want you to feel that lower glute, upper thigh area, and a little hug of the TA towards the spine. So feel that core support in our forward bend. And then we're going to come all the way down. Then drop the spine, drop the chin. Right, and coming halfway up, we'll walk the hands up the shins, looking forward, extending, activating, pausing halfway up. So lifting your toes up, feeling that lower glute, upper thigh area, and lower abdomen engaged. So yeah, a lot to support the back, right? And then all the way up. So we don't want to overextend our spinal muscles. We want to use those other core muscles, and hands to spine, hands to chest. Take a breath. Good, a little bit faster. So we're going to breathe in, reaching up. Exhale to swan dive forward. Inhale, halfway up. And fold back in. Reverse swan dive all the way up. Hands to your heart. One more time. Breathing in. Swan dive forward. Halfway up. Lift and lengthen. Core support. And fold back in, supporting the spine and coming all the way up, breathing in. And hands to heart. Pause for a moment. Just take a breath. Feel the sensations here. And then shifting to your left foot, we're going to come into tree vrikshasana pose. And just, you could draw that right heel right into your ankle. And if you want a little kickstand, you could leave your toes down. But what the idea is, lift up through the left side of your body. Feel the glute meads. This is this upper hip portion. And we want to feel, this is supporting us as well. So let's not cave into that hip, but draw up through that hip. And if it supports you to lift your foot, you could be there. But we're in Tadasana here in our posture, right? Same pose as Tadasana. We've just lifted a foot. That's all. Just lifted a foot. So let's try 1 or 2 breaths there in that balance. Plugging those fingertips into the sky. And then circling those arms down, stepping 2 feet, hands to heart. And take a breath. We'll shift our weight to the right, taking tree on the other side, Vrikshasana. So lots happening here in the pelvis, right? Tailbone drops towards our heels, lifting through the right hip, right? So that means you might press down on the inner edge of your foot to feel that lift through your right side body. Good. So yeah, it's going to lift you up. And if you feel like extending the arms, you could. Spin the thumbs back, little fingers forward. That'll release your shoulders. Good. We'll release the arms down. Pretty steady out there. Hands to heart. Let's take a breath. All right. And one nice deep forward bend. So we're going to take a breath in. Reaching up, swan dive forward, exhale, Uttanasana pose, staying in that forward bend. So bending of the knees a little bit, binding, you could bring hands behind the calves, you could, or ankles, you could bind your peace fingers around your big toes, but the idea is really closing the distance between your ribs and your thighs, so you might bend the knees to do that. And staying there 3 to 5 breaths, dropping the chin towards the chest. Connecting to that deep breath. Quieting the mind. Going into the core. So we really go deep into the awareness of our core support here. When you're ready, coming all the way back up, breathing in. And hands to your heart. And exhale. All right. Let's come all the way down onto our back and supine posture on your back. And pause for a moment as we're starting to really quiet into the support of our body by the earth. So staying there. Not quite ready for Shavasana, but we're just gonna pause for a moment, check in, and feel how your body feels on the floor now in Shavasana. And we will slowly bend the knees and taking a supine pigeon, so crossing the right ankle over the left knee. Okay, so now we're getting into the deep piriformis, or internal rotators, external rotators. So as you pause here, you might need your strap, but we're going to reach through and behind this left thigh, right? So reach one arm through the space behind your right leg and the other arm, and bind behind the knee or in front of the knee, whichever works. But we want to try to keep our natural shape of our spine. So that's the hard part. So we might need the strap. So if we need the strap, take that through and behind the thigh. in order to hold this way. So about 5 breaths here. We're going to stay, and the pose continues. We can continue to just kind of notice, right? Where is this most intense? Can I lengthen my tailbone so that my pelvis is my tailbone's not curling up towards the ceiling, but it's more lengthening out towards the end of my mat. So taking several breaths more to soften through the face, the jaw, balancing effort and ease. If you're near a wall, you could actually put that left foot on a wall if that's more comfortable to support you. Good. And as you release that and let that foot come back to the floor, we're going to slide the legs together so they're crossed if that's available. And then draw the legs back in again. And you might reach in front of the shins. So you can hold right in front of the shins or even lower if that's available. And gently draw the lower legs towards you. So we're coming into this supine cow face pose or Gomukhasana. And yeah, this is those deep outer hip area, outer glutes. So 3 breaths here, balancing that effort with ease. So, not pushing into anything that causes pain, but, finding a position that works. So maybe 1 or 2 more breaths. We could also use the strap on this one, wrapping it around the fronts of the shins and drawing the legs closer. And let's go ahead and release, unwind, touch the bottoms of the feet together and rest in souped up Baddha Konasana, so reclined bound angle. Letting the earth support your body, relaxing through the lower spine and groin area. And then we'll just take those hip stretches on the other side. So bringing the knees back up, we'll cross that left ankle over the right knee or lower thigh. And reaching through, binding behind the leg or in front of the shin. And 3 to 5 breaths. You might flex the ankle, kind of engage the knee joint. Close the eyes, possibly to really go into the shape of the posture. And that's optional, right? Just sensing, noticing. As we release areas of tension, we also allow energy to flow through our body. So blocked energy happens with tension. And let's slide those legs closer together and just take that cross-legged stretch, Gomukhasana. We hold the front side of the shins and draw the lower legs towards you. So you could hold fronts of the shins or even the ankles if you reach that far. And pulling the lower legs outwards towards you. And 3 breaths. Let this last exhale, contracting or feeling that hug of the waist or the transverse or the bandha around the belly. And releasing and just stretching out into Shavasana. Placing your body in a careful attention in Shavasana. So, if you're feeling tight or tender in your lower back, you might keep a bolster behind your knees, or you might bend your knees. You might bring your legs to the corners of your mat just to release through your hip joints. Letting the arms lie in a way that releases through your shoulders and your neck. It's always a great place to bring like an eye pillow or a towel to put over your eyes. Relaxes the mind. So as you let go and it's kind of drifting down through the body, noticing any areas that might still have some resistance, maybe behind the shoulders, the shoulder blades, through the lower spine or sacrum, in the pelvic bowl. Noticing the legs supported by the earth. And as you drift back, we just start to notice the layer of the breath, the energy body, subtle layer. So if you like to just notice, you start to feel the breath moving in and creating a little more voluminous space on the in-breath. Maybe it expands the space of the abdomen, lower belly, and pelvic floor. On the out-breath, gently contracts in, nothing forced or strained. You find that same breath around the midsection, around the stomach and lower ribs. Relaxing and exhaling. Just move into more subtle ease in the tissues. If you feel like it, always an option. If it feels uncomfortable, you can take your attention to your feet or your toes. Maybe just seeing if the breath softens around the heart and the lungs. Just breathing in, breathing out. Around the neck and the jaw, the collarbones. If you like, just around the mind, around the brain, the eyes, the forehead. That's always an option, just to notice any thoughts or feelings that come up, or more subtle parts of ourselves if we want to, just allowing a deeper shift in ourselves. Rumi says it well when he says, "This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Treat each guest honorably. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond." So you can just gently start to move a little bit as you come back into your awareness here of body, movement. Whatever feels right. If you need a stretch in any direction, maybe letting the knees drop side to side or even giving them a squeeze. And maybe dropping over to one side and just taking a breath or two so we're not rushing back into our evening, but just taking it slow and mindfully. And we might bring our hands to heart. And just take several breaths. Maybe bow the chin towards the heart, welcoming in compassion. May all beings be well, happy and peaceful. Namaste. So, see you next week. So, yep, have a good evening, you guys. More tired?